All right, let's start. Welcome everyone to this webinar about boosting your productivity with SCIA Engineer. As you know, we have released version 24, and this version is only one version. We have only 64-bit, no longer 32-bit, and only the new UI is included in SCIA Engineer 24. So this webinar serves to go over this one version with the new UI in case you're not familiar with it yet. And yeah, we'll show you the major workflows, mostly modeling related and also reporting related. So hopefully you can get some tips and tricks on how to use SCIA Engineer. Let me open the application. There we go. So I'm going to build a small model. And there are several ways you can approach that. But in this case, what I'm going to do first is create some cross sections. So I'm going to look for them in the menu. We have here the libraries menu, and I'm opening the cross sections library. It's immediately giving me some options to add some new profiles, and that's what I'm going to do. I already know which ones I need in this project, so that's why it's a possibility to do that first. What I need is an IPE. So I'm going to scroll down here to find that. IPE 180 is what I need, so I'm going to add that. Okay. Then another one, I need an IPE 200. And I need HEA 220. Now, what I could do is go to the HEA library, but also a possibility is go to the HE library, because this one is recently updated and it's the last version of the ArcelorMittal library. So I can also just go to the HE library and there look for 220A. All right, that's everything I need for my project. So I can close this and start modeling. What I'm going to do first is use a catalog block. And I'm going to look for that in the SCIA Spotlight in the search bar, as you can see. So I'm looking for the command catalog blocks. And there I'm going to add a simple frame. Now I can change the dimensions here if I need to. For instance, the width, that's fine. This one, okay, I'm going to keep 5 meters as well. And here 1.5 meters is fine for my project. So I don't need to change anything. I could change the cross sections here already, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to worry about that later. So first I'm just going to model the structure and then change all of the properties. All right, so I can now input this frame and I can input the coordinates via the Spotlight as well, because it also serves as a command line. So I'm just going to type in 0 space 0. The search bar or command line is automatically activated and I can place my frame in the 0 points. Good. Now let's see. I actually made a mistake and I wanted the structure to be 1 meter higher. So one way I can do that is just selecting the top part of my structure and moving it. So I'm going to use the move command, select this node to start from, and then I want to move it 1 meter upwards. Now, what I'm going to do is go to the snap settings for that and activate the tracking guides. Now, when you see I'm moving in a certain direction that aligns with one of the axes, it snaps to the tracking guide and I can easily move in a specified direction. Now I only need to type in the distance, which is 1 meter, so I just type in 1, and there we go. That's exactly what I needed. Then I need to model some more parts of my structure, and for that, instead of using the search bar, I'm going to use the input panel here. So I can model a 1D member, which I can take from the input panel. And I need to place one here actually. And then one I need to place here at the center of my column. So I'm going to go to the snap settings again and activate the midpoints. And that way I can easily model my bar in the middle of my columns without needing any other measurements. All right, there we go. Now, this is only one frame. I need 4 in total. So what I'm going to do is use our smart multicopy command. And before I do that, I'm going to make sure that my selection is on point, is exactly what I need. So I can select everything, but I'm going to make use of an additional functionality. And for that, I'm going to make sure that first I deselect a few nodes. You'll see why in a second. So I'm using multicopy. It's going to be used on my selection. I need 3 more copies, and I'm going to connect selected nodes with new beams. I'm not going to define the distance by cursor, but I need exactly 5 meters in Y direction. So I press OK, and this structure is exactly what I need. And now you can see why I deselected the nodes first, because the beams in the roof I needed to be connected, but I don't need them below that. Okay, then I need a plate, I need a floor. So I'm again going to the input panel and using the plate command. I can just draw where it needs to go using the snap points. End it with escape. And I actually modeled my floor. Now, I'm going to change some settings in the view bar here so that I can visualize in a different way what I've just modeled. Also, everything is still gray, but I'm going to change my visualization so that I can differentiate and actually see some properties so that I can check later if all of my beams have the correct cross section, for instance. So I'm going to right click and open the context menu and then go to the view settings. Here I can change the style and color. So first of all, I could color it by cross section and then see that, yeah, I didn't worry about my cross sections before, so everything has the same cross section and the same color. So now let's go change that. Let's see. My columns have cross section HE200A. That's fine for the columns, but the other parts I need to change. So how am I going to do that? First of all, I'm going to select one of the members that I need to change, but I'm going to make a smart selection and change all of them at once. So these ones, and actually these on the top as well, I need to change them to IPE 200. So how am I going to select all of them at once? I could do that, of course, in the 3D scene manually, which would be feasible for a small building like this one. But if you have a larger project, that would be quite tedious. So I'm going to use the properties to make my selection. In this case, all of the beams that I need to change have the same length. So what I can do is right click here on the length property and expand the selection. So now I have selected all of the beams that I need to change just with one click. And I'm going to change the cross section here in the properties to IPE 200. And I can immediately see them changing colors in the 3D scene. So I'm sure that I did the right thing. Now the remaining beams in the roof need to be changed. So I'm going to select maybe these two and again use the length to expand my selection. Now I can do that on both values that I see here, which are different, but I just click once on the first one to expand my selection and then do the same for the second one. And now again, only with a few clicks, I have made the correct selection by using the selection tools in the properties panel. And I'm going to change the cross section to IPE 180. There we go. Now let me just check what I did for the plates. I need it to be concrete, so I'm going to change the material here. And the thickness needs to be 150. And now everything should be good. Okay. Just checking that I didn't forget anything. Good. Okay. What more do we need here? Some supports, which I can also find in the input panel. And because I made my selection before, it already knows where to apply it to, and it's just done automatically. Now, I realize that the commands I've been using from the input panel, they are only showing the icons here, and I'm familiar with the icons because I've used the application before and the new UI before. But we actually have something you can use to get to know the new icons. How that works is in here. By opening the hamburger menu of the input panel, I can switch off the icon mode, maybe also even show category headers. And maybe I'll also remove all the tags and all the filters. And then my input panel already looks quite differently. So you can see that now the icons are shown with the names of the commands. So this is a nice way to get to know the command names. You can also look for them, of course, always in the spotlight in the search bar. But this is also a nice way of getting to know everything that's available in the application. Now, as you can see, I can drag and drop this component wherever I want. So I could, for instance, dock it on the left. And this one actually, for those who are familiar with the old UI, looks quite similar to the tree structure we had there. So for those that still need to transfer to the new UI and are used to the old UI, this is also a nice way of making that transition a little smoother. So if I go back to my structure, I'm almost ready to calculate, but I first need to add some loads and also make some final checks to my structure. I'm going to do that one first. So I'm going to use this check structure command that I can find here in my toolbar. So this just checks for duplicates, naming, so I can be sure that, every beam that I've drawn, for instance, is only there once. And I also need sure that everything is working together the way I intended. And for that, in the application, I'm going to use the command connect members nodes. I'm looking for it in the spotlight now. You can also find this one in the menu. And how you can learn where the commands are in the menu is by using the show me button here. So if I look for something in the spotlight, I can use the show me button, and here you can see the menu opening and it's showing me where I can find that if I wanted to look for it in the menu. Also, from either the spotlight or the menu, you have the possibility to drag and drop that command to the toolbars. Now, let's use that command. And you can see that there have been some new connections. This is displayed, if I go back to a different visibility, with the red lines here. And it's because this beam I had only modeled from the top to the bottom, but I needed to work together with the beam that I've modeled in the middle. So now I can see that that is actually the case after using this command. Now, this is something that is also included in the calculation command. So it should be done automatically, or you can deselect it if you want. But it's nice to know that it's also there as a separate command and you can really see what is changing. Now, this works for 1D members, but for 2D members, we need to make sure that this slab here is working together with these beams that are across it. And for that, I need to model some internal edges. Now, I'm looking for that in this case, again, in the input panel. And because I have everything open, I can just scroll scrolled a little too far. I can scroll to the members section and get to the internal edge command here. So I'm just going to draw these lines. And again, it's visualized with this red line that there is a connection and they should be working together, which we can check in a minute in the results. So we are almost ready for calculation, but first let me show you something else. Also I cannot forget to add a load, but let's do that in a minute. What I've just done by changing here the layout of the application, changing the settings of the components, drag and dropping stuff to the toolbar, that's something you can do for your own. You can customize it completely to your liking, but for version 24, we've also made some suggestions in that area. So what we've done is created some configuration templates. I can change my template by using the view menu here, going to user configuration, saving, loading, and or restoring the default configuration. Now, what I'm going to do is load a new one. And in my case, what I will show you is what you will have the possibility to do from patch 1 of version 24. And that is the default dialog that will be opened. The default folder path will contain configuration templates. And I can directly from there open, for instance, transition from old UI. I need to restart the application. I should have saved my project, but I have one saved from my preparation. So I will just reopen that in a minute. I'm going to restart the application. And in the meantime, going to show you this. Because I've shown you that this is possible from patch 1. That has not been released yet. So for now, if you already want to use the configuration templates, that's already possible, but then you have to download them from the website. So if you go to the website to downloads, which is under support and services, you can go to SCIA Engineer 24, and here you can download the configuration templates. All right. So SCIA Engineer is restarting. In the meantime, let me see if there are any questions I can already answer. Yes, you will definitely get a link to the recorded session later. Okay, the rest of the questions at this moment seem to be a little more specific, so I will answer them definitely, but after the webinar. All right. Yeah, I need to browse here for a second. So what I wanted to show you is this. This layout looks quite familiar. It looks pretty similar to what I had prepared a few minutes ago. But something that, for instance, is specific to this template is that we have the favorites workstation here, which is filled with commands that were in the old UI in the tree structure. Now we have the input panel that closely resembles the tree structure, but only contains commands that are related to inputting elements. So there are a few commands that fell out of the tree structure, let's say, and these we have specifically added to the favorites or my workstation toolbar. So it's just something that might help you if you were used to the old UI, for instance. Now, something else we did is added some hotkeys. So we filled actually a lot of hotkeys for commands that we think are very useful. And that list of hotkeys is also available from the website, from the page that I just shown you, where you can download the configuration files. But again, it can be completely customized to your own liking. So even if you start from one of the templates, you can just change anything you want and then go along with your custom configuration. You can even save it and keep it somewhere. It's really what you prefer. Okay, let's see if in this project I had already created some loads. Don't think so. So let's add a load group and some load cases, because I will not be able to add anything to the self-read load case. So one more for permanent loads, one for variable loads, something like that. Now, for inputting loads, I can go to the input panel and scroll to, or use filters, of course, to get to the loads, which I can find here. And for inputting them, to know where I'm inputting them, into which load case, I can have a look at the active load case selector here on the top right. So that's also something that's new in version 24, is that there is now room for the description of the load case, which we did not have before. So it will be even clearer to select the load case. So in this case, for instance, let me add a load to the variable load case. And I can toggle the loads so that they will be visible. Yeah, in this case, I don't have any loads yet, but once I do, I can use this toggle to visualize or not visualize the loads. So I'm going to add a surface load, and because I have only one slab, it's automatically added to that one slab, and I can go to the properties panel and change the value to maybe -2. And then I should have enough to start my calculation. Calculate button can be found either here in the middle of the process toolbar, or you can look for it in the spotlight or in the menu, of course. Now you can see there's a new dialog for the calculation process linked to our new solver manager, which should speed up a lot of especially nonlinear calculations. Okay, everything went well. I can close it. And now I can have a look at some results. Let's go to the 3D deformations, for instance, and check that these beams are actually working together with the slab as I intended. So I can do that for any load case, doesn't really matter. And just like that, you can see that the movement is in the same direction. Let's see if it's different for load case 1. And actually, if you want to have an even better understanding of how the structure is moving, or if some movements are too small to really visualize, you can always make use of the scales that you can find here in the top. So I can exaggerate the movement here or make it a little smaller. Yeah. What I can do also, let's go back to visualization of load case 3, I can maybe visualize the loads together with the results. Yeah, so I can see exactly which load is causing this deformation. This would be something nice to send to the report, for instance. So what I can do is just right-click here in the 3D window and then send a live image in scale to the report. Good. Now, one thing I didn't show yet, okay, let's first add this into the inbox. One thing I didn't show you yet is another way of modeling something, which is through the marking menu. That is for, let's say, maybe more advanced users, or it depends on how you like to model. But this is sort of an invisible helper. You have to know that you can open it by holding Control and right, or no, so Alt and right mouse button. And then you see that if I hold these keys, that there is the marking menu appearing. And it has 4 categories, each with a set of commands that are most used, let's say. So for instance, for modeling, I can also use this, and it's using always the same movement of your mouse, actually. So it works on muscle memory, and you can train your hand to move always in this direction. And if you're used to that, it's also a very fast way of modeling something. Okay. Now, something else that is interesting, especially when you're looking at results. So, yeah, back to the results. Is the manual or auto refresh button here. So it's usually on the manual refresh, and whenever I changed some settings and I wanted to see a different result, I had to refresh it from the actions button here or by using the hotkey F5. I can also change that to be auto refreshed, and in that case, whenever I change anything, like the load case here, it will automatically change the results and refresh the image. Now, this is most useful, of course, if you're looking at either a small model or only asking for results for a few elements, for instance. But if you are doing that and you want to go through the different values, for instance, that can be very fast by using the auto refresh. Okay, now I'm going to send this image also to the report, because it's a nice view of my structure. It shows my whole structure, and I can use that later in the report. Okay, now a few things still in the main part of the software that might also help you boost your productivity are, I'm closing the results here, by the way, by dragging it to the bin, but I don't necessarily have to do it that way. I can also close it here from the cross. Now, what I wanted to say is you can also use the inline calculator for properties, for instance. So if you have to calculate a value, you don't have to do it in a separate calculator and then enter the value here. You can just type the equal sign and then do some smaller calculation. You can see what the result will be. And then, of course, it will influence my calculation. So my results will be deleted. That's fine. Let's, for instance, change the loads. So I'm going to toggle the loads. Let's change that to 10. And then, okay, going to recalculate. All right. Good. Now, I haven't been over all of the different options in the new UI. We have a separate webinar for that from the past, where we are really going over all of the options. Here, I try to focus more on the workflow of the modeling and some interesting things that you can use in the new UI. Another way to learn the new UI is to go to the help menu and replay the onboarding. If you do that, you can see there are some tooltips that are shown with a picture or a video with some descriptions to encourage you to try some things and really make an explanation of every part of the UI. Yeah. So I'm going to close that for now. And then let's go back to the project and back to the UI. So what I haven't shown you yet either are the tables. So we have an inputs table and a results table. Now we've mostly modeled it using the 3D scene, but it's also possible to use a table for that. So if you want to add a node, a member, doesn't matter what, you can see every element that already has been inputted, and you can add a new one on the bottom row just by entering these blue fields that are mandatory. Yeah. You can do the same for loads, by the way, or even for library elements by switching the workstation here. For results, you have to actually have some results. So let me maybe go back to the 3D deformations. And then I can send my results to the table from here. Depending on the settings, of course, depending on the extremes that you've asked for, the amount of results that you see is different. So maybe if I want results for not the global results, but for each member, I can send it again to the results table. And there you see it's quickly updated with a new tab. Again, this was automatically recalculated because I have auto refresh on. Now what I can also do is from the results table actually send this table to the report. So I can build it here in the application in the exact way I want to see it, and then I can send it to the engineering report. I hadn't created one yet. For the pictures, it was the same. So the only thing I can do now is send it to the inbox. And then let's have a look at the reports. So I'm going to the reports reporting toolbar and then open the report command. But again, it's also findable in other places. And here I can start building my reports. So what I can do. First of all, let's see what I sent to the inbox. I have sent some pictures. And a results table. Now you can see that the results table was just generated, so that is showing up fine, but the pictures are showing that they are outdated. That's because I created these before I actually changed some parts of like the loads or some properties for the elements that affected my results. So these results that are shown here are no longer valid. The good thing is it doesn't matter for SCIA Engineer. It knows that it's no longer valid, and you can just update the pictures. You don't have to recreate new pictures. So I can just use this button here to regenerate everything that has been outdated. Going to take a quick sip here. And there we go. The image has been updated, the values have been updated. So that's a really nice thing about our engineering reports, that you can just build it. You can even do that from the beginning. You can build a template if you want. even before you have anything in your project. And then use that structure again and again, and just update everything inside. So how do I now build a nice report? First of all, you start usually with the special items. So for instance, I can add a header and change the order in the navigator a little bit so that the header is really showing from the start. And if I scroll up, you can see that that's the case. I can add some chapters, a table of contents, maybe even before the chapters. Maybe another chapter. Let me rename that. So maybe the first part I will just explain about the structure. And here I will show some results, for instance. Something like that. So what I didn't do at this point, but you can if you want, is change the header and make it completely custom to your company or your project. So I can do that by editing it from the button here. And then you can see there's a whole dialog with a lot of options. You can change pictures, you can change all of the values, all of the text here. So it's completely customizable. Now, something very nice as well is that you can indent some items in the reports. So for instance, you can see by creating some chapters, everything is numbered automatically. So I have 1 table of contents, 2 structure, 3 results, and then my pictures are getting a new number. But in this case, let's say I want to indent them under the results chapter. Then I make sure I drag them that way. And you can see that the numbering, the hierarchy is automatically changed. Okay. Now, some nice things about this indenting are that it also works for the hierarchy of tables. So for instance, if I were to add some information about my structure, like a table for the notes and a table for the members, I'll add these under my structure chapter. I can indent them even below each other. And then you have to let it generate. Yeah. Yeah, this is a very specific way of doing it, which affects the table of contents. I'm just throwing something together here. But what is nice is that, for instance, it shows you for each member a table with the properties of that member. And then it will show you all of the nodes that are linked to that member. Same for the following ones. Yeah. So it works for tables, for structure, for most of the tables, or pictures even. It should work. So it's really nice if you want to structure your report in a certain way, that you can just do that by making a nice structure or hierarchy in your navigator. Another way is the result picture generator. And this one requires indenting 1 table and 1 picture. So I'm just going to do that. Actually, maybe I'm not going to do it for the 3D displacements, but let's do internal forces. So let me find that here in the results. Just adding the internal forces, indenting it under the result picture generator. For the picture, I can just take any of these, that's fine. Or I could go back to the application and make a new picture, of course. So let's give it some time to generate. And And here I need to make sure that I have selected what I want to show. So the settings of the result picture generator itself, you see the properties over here on the right. I can select multiple values. And then when I regenerate, you can see that it shows you a table with the values, but the pictures are regenerated for each of the values. So you have one picture for each of the requested values. So this is also a very nice way of displaying different results using only one picture, and your layout will always be the same, your viewpoint will always be the same. So that's a very nice way of using the result picture generator. Okay, so yeah, that's very briefly how you can create a nice report and yeah, really make use of the benefits of SCIA Engineer. Let's see, I see some questions coming in. First of all, everything that you can ask for in SCIA Engineer regarding results or structure or anything should also be possible to be added in the report. So yes, all of the results should be also in the report. And then, no, the picture I used for the result picture generator, it was one that contained results, but that really doesn't have to be the case. You can also see that the 3D results that I had used to generate that picture are not shown here. So it's really only using the structure to show the results on that part of the structure in the result picture generator. Okay, so I hope that's a reply to some of the questions. Yeah, basically that's everything I wanted to show you today. So I hope you learned something from it, even if it's just one tip or one trick. If there's any other questions you have, technical questions, you can always contact our support team. If you have questions regarding features in the software, if you have some requests, you can always reach me or any of my colleagues from the product team. Or you can access our product board portal, which you should have access to if you're an existing customer. So yeah, there are plenty of ways to reach us. Don't hesitate to ask your questions. The questions that are asked during this webinar that I have not answered live yet, we will come back to you via email. So yeah, I hope you learned something. If you still have a question, don't hesitate to ask. And for the rest, I wish you a very nice rest of the day and a lot of use of SCIA Engineer. Bye.